Chapter 5, The Hunter's Mark. Part 1. The hunter didn't move. It just stood there, half shrouded in mist, its glowing eyes locked on me like it was waiting for permission to strike. The swamp around us was silent, no hum, no wind, no sound. Even the water seemed to hold its breath. I tightened my grip on the shard. "All right," I whispered. "Let's see what you want." The hunter tilted its head slightly, the motion too smooth, too human. Then it raised one hand, slow, deliberate, and pointed at me. The air
Code
rippled.
warning.
The interface
Temporal lock
flickered. Initiated. Movement restriction. Partial. My muscles froze. Not completely, just enough to make every motion feel like pushing through concrete. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. The hunter stepped closer, each movement silent, precise, inevitable. I forced my arm up, inch by inch, until the shard caught the faint light. Not today. The hunter stopped. Its head tilted again. Then, it spoke. Not with sound, with thought. "You are marked." The words slammed into my mind like static. I staggered backward, clutching my head. What does that mean?" The hunter's eyes flared brighter. "You carry the fracture." The mist around us pulsed, reacting to the words. The swamp trembled. The air thickened. I gritted my teeth. "Then come take it." The hunter didn't move. It just watched. Then, it turned and walked away. I blinked. What? The interface flickered. Code. Temporal lock released. Threat level. Active. Status. Tracking. It wasn't done with me. It was marking me. I exhaled shakily, lowering the shard. Perfect. Now I'm cursed. The swamp hummed softly again, the mist settling. The silence broke with faint ripples in the water, small, rhythmic, like footsteps far away. I scanned the horizon. The mist parted slightly, revealing faint lights in the distance. Not natural, not swamp glow. Artificial. Structured. A settlement? I started walking. The ground shifted beneath me, the mud giving way to firmer earth. The air grew warmer, the mist thinner. The faint lights grew brighter, flickering orange and white. I crested a small ridge. And froze. It wasn't a settlement. It was a crash site. A massive ship, half buried in the swamp, its hull torn open, metal twisted and scorched. Fires burned along the edges, casting long shadows across the wreckage. The air smelled of ozone and burnt fuel. The interface flickered. Code. Chrono vessel detected. Designation. Arc 07. Status. Destroyed. Origin. Human. My chest tightened. I moved closer, stepping over debris and broken panels. The hull was covered in strange markings, not numbers, not letters, but symbols that pulsed faintly with blue light. I crouched beside one. The light reacted to my presence, flaring brighter. The interface glitched. Code chrono signature match, 87%. Possible connection. Jack's Calder. I swallowed hard. This was mine? A faint sound echoed from inside the wreck, metal shifting, something moving. I raised the shard. "Who's there?" No answer. I stepped through the torn hull. The interior was dark, lit only by flickering emergency lights. Wires hung from the ceiling. The floor was slick with water and oil. The air was heavy with smoke. I moved slowly, scanning the shadows. A faint hum came from deeper inside, rhythmic, mechanical. I followed it. The corridor opened into a large chamber, the ship's core room. A massive cylindrical engine sat in the center, cracked open, leaking faint streams of blue energy. And beside it, a body. Human. I froze. The figure lay slumped against the wall, wearing a torn uniform. The insignia matched the markings on the hull. I knelt beside them. Their face was pale, eyes closed, skin faintly glowing with blue veins. Alive? No, not exactly. The interface flickered. Code temporal residual detected. Identity. Unknown. STI reached out slowly. The body's eyes snapped open. Blue light flared. I stumbled backward. The figure spoke, voice weak, distorted. "You came back?" My heart pounded. "Who are you?" The figure smiled faintly. "You left us." What? You said you'd fix it." The chamber trembled. The engine pulsed violently. The figure's body flickered, glitching between solid and transparent. You failed. I backed away. No, I didn't. The figure's voice rose, overlapping with static. You failed. You failed. You failed. The engine exploded in a burst of blue light. I threw myself to the ground. The world dissolved. The whiteness returned. The interface screamed. Codatus. Dormant warning. Fracture surge detected. Stability. 47% right pointing arrow 43%. Chrono energy. 29 right pointing arrow 22. I curled into a ball, covering my head. The light faded. The swamp snapped back into place. Smoke drifted through the air. The wreckage was gone. Only the faint glow of blue energy remained, swirling where the ship had been. I stood slowly, shaking. Okay, I whispered. That wasn't a memory. That was a warning. The mist swirled. The hunter's voice echoed faintly through the air. You carry the fracture. I clenched my jaw. Then I'll carry it to the end. Part 2. The swamp was quiet again. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels staged, like the world was holding its breath, waiting to see what I'd do next. The blue residue from the vanished ship still drifted through the air, glowing faintly like dying embers. I wiped mud from my face and forced myself to stand. The interface flickered. Code stability, 43%. Chrono energy, 22. Core integrity, 82%. Directive. Locate the next fracture. Status effect. Marked. Marked. The hunter's words echoed in my skull. You carry the fracture. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it wasn't good. I took a step forward. The swamp shifted beneath me, not physically, but perceptually. The mist thinned in one direction, thickened in another. The trees leaned subtly, their branches pointing like skeletal fingers, guiding me, or hurting me. I followed the path the mist opened. The ground grew firmer, the water shallower. The air warmed. The glow of fungus dimmed. The swamp slowly gave way to something else. A stretch of cracked earth, dry and brittle, like the world had been drained of moisture. I crouched, touching the ground. Warm. Too warm. The interface flickered. Code environmental shift detected. Biome. Temporal scar. Hazard level. Severe. A temporal scar. I'd never seen one, but I'd heard the whispers. Places where time had been ripped open so violently that the world never healed. Places where the resets hit hardest. Places where memory fragments hid. I moved forward cautiously. The trees here were dead, twisted husks, their bark cracked and peeling. The air shimmered with faint distortions, like heat waves on asphalt. The ground pulsed occasionally, sending ripples of light across the surface. A faint hum vibrated through the air. Not swamp hum, not chrono well hum, something deeper, something broken. I followed the sound. The scar widened into a clearing, a massive crater carved into the earth. At its center, a swirling vortex of white and blue light hovered just above the ground, crackling with energy. A fracture. The next one. I stepped closer. The interface glitched violently. Code warning. Major fracture detected. Stability impact. Critical. Memory fragment probability. High. Hunter proximity. Unknown. Unknown. That was worse than near. I tightened my grip on the shard and approached the vortex. The air grew colder. My breath fogged. My skin prickled. The vortex pulsed. A whisper drifted from it. Jax? My heart skipped. The voice was familiar. Not the echoes. Not the hunter. Not the other me. This voice was softer. Warmer. Human. I stepped closer. The vortex expanded, swallowing the clearing in blinding light. I shielded my eyes. The world dissolved, and I was somewhere else. A room. Small. Dimly lit. A bed in the corner. A desk covered in papers. A window overlooking a city skyline, tall buildings, neon lights, flying transports drifting between towers. A real city. A human city. I turned slowly. A woman sat at the desk. Dark hair. Tired eyes. A faint smile. She looked up at me. My breath caught. I knew her. Not from the swamp. Not from the resets. Not from the echoes. From before. Before everything. She stood slowly, stepping toward me. Jax, she whispered. You're late. My chest tightened. I don't remember you. Her smile faltered. You will. She reached out, touching my face. Her hand passed through me like mist. She didn't react. You promised you'd come back, she said softly. You promised you'd fix it. My throat tightened. I'm trying. She shook her head gently. No, you're running. The room trembled. The lights flickered. She stepped closer, her voice urgent. You have to stop the resets. Not escape them. I'm not trying to escape. Yes, you are. The room cracked, a jagged line of white light splitting the floor. She grabbed my shoulders, or tried to. Her hands passed through me again. Listen to me, she whispered. The hunter isn't your enemy. My blood ran cold. What? It's trying to contain the fracture. You're the one carrying it. The floor split wider. The room shook violently. She leaned in, her voice barely audible. Find the core, the real one, before the world collapses. The light swallowed her. The room shattered. I fell. Again. Through light. Through darkness. Through memory. Then, I hit the ground. Hard. The scar clearing snapped back into place. The vortex was gone. The air was still. The interface flickered. Code. Memory fragment recovered. Fragment 3. The promise. Stability. 43% right pointing arrow 39%. Directive updated. Locate the core. 39%. The world was dying fast. I pushed myself upright, shaking. The mist thickened. The ground trembled. A shadow moved at the edge of the clearing. The hunter. It stepped forward slowly, its glowing eyes fixed on me. But it didn't attack. It didn't move. It just stared, waiting, watching, understanding. I swallowed hard. You're not here to kill me, I whispered. You're here to stop me. The hunter tilted its head. The world hummed, and the next step in the truth waited somewhere beyond the scar. Part 3. The hunter didn't blink. Didn't twitch. Didn't breathe. It just stood at the edge of the temporal scar, its glowing eyes fixed on me like it was reading every thought I had. The air between us felt charged, not with fear, not with hostility, but with something heavier. Expectation. I wiped the sweat and mud from my face, forcing myself to stand straighter. You're not here to kill me, I said quietly. You're here to stop the fracture. The hunter tilted its head a fraction of an inch. Confirmation. The mist swirled around its legs, bending unnaturally, like reality itself was giving it space. The ground beneath it didn't ripple. The air didn't shift. It existed outside the world's rules. A guardian, a failsafe, a weapon built for one purpose. To contain me. I took a slow step back. The hunter didn't follow. Instead, it raised one hand, palm outward, and the air rippled. A symbol appeared in front of it, drawn in lines of white light. A circle, a fracture, a mark. My mark. The interface flickered violently. Code. Mark resonance detected. Fracture instability. Rising. Stability. 39% right pointing arrow 36%. 36%. The world was bleeding out. The hunter lowered its hand. The symbol dissolved. Then it pointed, not at me this time, but toward the far side of the scar, where the cracked earth sloped downward into a narrow ravine. A direction, a warning, a command. I swallowed hard. You want me to go there? The hunter didn't move, but the mist parted along the ravine path, opening like a curtain. I tightened my grip on the shard. Fine, but if you wanted me dead, you've had plenty of chances. The hunter's eyes dimmed slightly, not in threat, but in acknowledgement. Then it stepped backward into the mist and vanished. No sound, no ripple, no trace. Just gone. I exhaled shakily. Okay, ravine it is. I started down the cracked slope, the ground crunching beneath my boots. The air grew colder, the mist thicker. The hum of the scar faded behind me, replaced by a low, rhythmic vibration, like a heartbeat buried deep underground. The ravine walls closed in, jagged and sharp, glowing faintly with blue veins of chrono energy. The deeper I went, the more the world distorted, edges bending, shadows stretching, light flickering. The interface flickered. Code temporal distortion. Severe. Cognitive stability. Moderate. Proceed with caution. I kept moving. The ravine opened into a cavern, not natural, not carved by water or time. The walls were smooth metal, cracked and warped by energy. Panels hung loose. Wires sparked. The floor was covered in dust and debris. A facility. Another one. But this one was older. Abandoned. Dead. I stepped inside. The air was cold enough to sting my lungs. The lights flickered weakly, powered by some dying backup system. The hum I'd heard grew louder, vibrating through the metal floor. I followed it. The corridor twisted, leading deeper underground. Doors lined the walls, some sealed, others hanging open. Inside, I glimpsed shattered equipment, broken consoles, empty containment pods. A lab. A chrono lab. My stomach tightened. I reached the end of the corridor. A massive door stood before me, thick, reinforced, covered in warning symbols. The metal was scorched, warped outward, like something inside had exploded. The hum pulsed behind it. I pressed my hand against the door. It slid open with a groan. The chamber inside was enormous, circular, with a raised platform in the center. And on that platform, a sphere, not as large as the core I'd seen in the memory rift, but similar, a smaller version, cracked and leaking streams of blue light. A prototype. The interface flickered violently. Code chrono core fragment detected. Stability impact. Extreme. Memory fragment probability. 92%. I stepped closer. The sphere pulsed. A whisper drifted through the chamber. Jax? Her voice. The woman from the memory. I froze. Where are you? The sphere pulsed again. Here. I reached out slowly. My fingers brushed the cracked surface. Light exploded. The world dissolved. I stood in a different room, clean, bright, alive. The prototype sphere hovered in the center, whole and stable. Scientists moved around it, adjusting controls, monitoring readings. And she stood beside it. The woman. She turned toward me, not the projection, not the echo, but the real her. Alive. Solid. Warm. Jax, she said softly. You're late. My chest tightened. I don't remember you. She smiled sadly. You will. The room trembled. Alarms blared. The sphere cracked. She grabbed my arm. Listen to me, she said urgently. If the core collapses, the world resets. But if you collapse, the memory glitched. Her face blurred. Her voice distorted. Everything ends. The light swallowed her. The room shattered. I fell. Again. I hit the cavern floor hard, gasping. The sphere was dim now, its energy fading. The interface flickered. Code memory fragment recovered. Fragment 4. The warning. Stability. 36% right pointing arrow 32%. Directive updated. Find the true core 32%. The world was almost out of time. I pushed myself upright, shaking. The cavern trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. A deep, metallic roar echoed through the facility. Not the Titan, not the swamp creatures. The hunter. But this time, it wasn't hunting. It was running. Toward me. I staggered to my feet. The cavern shook violently. The hunter burst through the doorway, its body flickering with damage, dents, scorch marks, cracks of white light leaking from its joints. It had been fighting something. Something worse. It reached toward me, not to attack, but to shield. The cavern ceiling cracked. A blinding surge of white energy tore through the chamber. The hunter stepped in front of me. The world exploded.